Welcome to the project tonight, the bombshell court ruling defining what a woman is, how this could have massive implications for Australia.
The airport revolution that could see boarding passes soon become a thing of the past, fingers crossed.
Plus claims Katy Perry's spacewalk was a fake. Kate Langbrook joins us. No, sorry. Looking at the evidence, actually, are they onto something?
And Kiwi comedian Chris Parker drops in to explain the very best thing about being 30-something.
We are live from the lands of the Cooler Nation. It's a big welcome, of course, to Susie, of course to Dave Thornton, but also look who's back from the Amazing Race. It's Georgie Taylor. Spill, sister, did you win?
Cannot tell you. Couldn't possibly say, although I have been wearing nothing but maroon for a while, so it's good to see I still can't get out of it. So team maroon, guys, whenever it goes
I thought you were going to say I've been wearing nothing for the last few months, and I was like, all right, well, thank you for wearing clothes tonight, Georgie.
I wasn't gone that long.
That is an amazing race. That is. Good stuff.
Well, it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to see how you go.
Yes, it's going to be.
I'm going to try to crack you. Between now and then, I will crack you. I'll get to the bottom of it.
Hang on a second, Tony. Are you and Rob still together? Everything's still good?
Let's get into today's top stories. Returning to the campaign trail today, and Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton tussled over issues from last night's second leaders debate. The opposition leader took aim at the PM's claims about negative gearing.
The Labor Party has always harboured a desire to abolish negative gearing, and their partners in crime, the Greens, are open about it as well. It's only Anthony Albanese who has a problem with the truth.
Meanwhile, the PM attacked Mr Dutton for refusing to say if he thought the impacts of climate change were getting worse.
I thought John Howard wasn't great on climate change, I've got to say that. But this guy's worse.
I believe in climate change, and that is a reality.
Ricky Nixon is back in the headlines. The disgraced former AFL player manager has been charged over allegations he threatened police on social media. The 62-year-old was arrested outside his Melbourne apartment this morning. It's alleged the series of posts on Facebook included threats to kill, and he's been bailed to face a Melbourne court in July.
It's happening all over again. Fire Festival 2.0 has been postponed.
I don't believe it.
I know. Can you believe? With reports organisers are now searching for a new location, guys.
Okay.
It was set to kick off in Mexico next month. An announcement about refunds was posted, but then quickly deleted from the festival's website. There were also reports last month the event didn't have any permits. The original festival was such a disaster, the promoter ended up doing 4 years in jail for fraud.
And the way we fly could be revolutionised in as little as 2 to 3 years. The UN has floated the idea of a digital travel credential. So this would replace check-ins. It would scrap the need for boarding passes. Your details are submitted when you book. Then you're scanned by facial recognition as you check your luggage or go through security. The tech would also automatically adjust your travel plans if you miss a connection or your flight is cancelled.
I don't know about this. So the whole idea is it's looking at your face and it knows what flight you're supposed to be on. I don't like a computer seeing my face and going, virgin. Absolutely. That is
Also, no more boarding passes because, you know, what am I going to do now when I'm making my little collage from my post-holiday scrapbook and I've got nothing to paste in?
I think this is amazing, but do we actually think, allegedly, it would take 2 to 3 years to have the infrastructure ready to go in airports? There's no way that they could implement this in 2 to 3 years. They can't even fix the airports right now.
Right.
If it's ready to go. I'm all for this, by the way. If this could happen, yes.
Why are you all for it?
Yes, because it's convenience, Waleed.
Oh, right.
Convenience. You just walk on in, don't have to, don't have to do anything with the thing, don't have to risk losing my boarding pass, don't have to get it reprinted, don't have to worry about it. Just.
And you love losing a boarding pass, is that right?
I don't love losing it, but it happens.
But it happens.
Wait a minute. I've gone to the airport with you before, Georgie. You usually go, yep.
I just carry it on.
Not on Virgin, this one.
They are still together. Good stuff.
That's not what I meant.
Look at him. Now, as the benefits and warnings of AI's impact on humanity grow, many also fear its impact on our democracy. So, as all political parties turn to artificial intelligence in the battle for votes, just how much are they faking this election?
Sir, hello, can you hear me?
That'll be $110 for your tank of petrol.
If the dead eyes, uncanny speaking voice and, well, alien didn't tip you off, this Liberal Party ad about their petrol policy was entirely generated by AI, and it could be a sign of where we're heading.
If an image can tell 1,000 words, then an AI image or video is going to be able to change 1,000 minds.
AI in political messaging is still a work in progress. Last year, Melbourne's Lord Mayor Nick Rees shared his vision for new parks, complete with what looked like a dead body. And just last month, One Nation's Malcolm Roberts posted this image to social media.
Bring back the Australian dream.
Which seemed like more of a nightmare than a dream, given the blurred faces, truncated limbs and unattached body parts. And this grotesque body horror is legally legit. According to the Electoral Commission,
AI can be used to generate content for written, verbal or visual mediums.
However,
if AI-generated communication misled voters, the creator and communicator could be subject to criminal charges.
Misleading voters is forbidden, regardless of whether or not it's artificially generated. Currently, the AEC has no specific power over AI content. And while Malcolm's foray into proto-expressionist art is clearly AI, soon it won't be so obvious.
As we speak, the technology is getting to the point where it's indistinguishable. Within 2 to 3 years, the average punter will have no way to figure out whether an AI image is generated or real.
As more of this content floods the internet, each new election brings with it a warning about third-party actors generating deepfakes, putting words into politicians' mouths.
President Trump is a total and complete dipshit.
Barack Obama didn't actually say that.
At least not in a public address.
That was a fake produced 7 years ago by filmmaker Jordan Peele, designed to warn people about the coming dangers of the technology.
Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet.
And we have seen some deep fakes. During last year's Queensland election, the LNP posted one of then Premier Stephen Miles on its TikTok, which came after federal Labor had made one of Peter Dutton. But during this election, the parties seem to be using AI in a relatively above-board way, simply getting in on fun meme fads like the recent action figure generator.
Albo, building Australia's future.
In Action Albo, Broken Promise Edition.
Oh.
But will this kind of reality-bending memeing remain harmless, or is it all foreshadowing something more sinister?
We're going to have to shift from trusting the content to trusting the verifiable sources behind that content. Voters are going to have to pay more attention in their politics, and that's probably the one good thing that's going to come out of this.
Thank you, and stay woke, bitches.
The issue I have here is it's all very well and good to say that if you can prove that something has misled voters, that then there might be some consequences of that or criminal charges. But once it's out there,
Damage is done. Yeah.
the damage is done.
Yeah, and I don't share his optimism that it's going to be good for us to learn how to verify reliable sources from not. Because we are living in an age of just so much information that it's already exhausting just trying to distinguish that stuff. And B, confirmation bias is so strong. Yeah. Like someone who tells you stuff you already agree with, that's a reliable source, right? Yeah. And the opposite is true. And so how do you... I don't know. I don't think we're wired for this. That's my concern.
But then what do you make of people who use it as a tool then? Like political parties using the AI as a tool for them to actually push out this kind of content too?
I think it would be fine if we could keep AI in a box. If all they're doing is like, cute cartoony things that are very obviously not factual, fine. But I can't see a way you keep it in the box. And the minute it becomes too hard to tell the difference between reality and its opposite, the more the whole concept of truth just disappears for both ends, right? Like you can say what you like about your opponent, but your opponent can also deny something real and just say, oh, it's just fake. And then I don't know where we are.
That's a massive issue too.
Yeah. Well, the campaign trail is still obviously happening in real life, guys. And old Albo. Oh yeah, don't worry about that. We're breaking the big news. And he was at a childcare centre this morning on the campaign trail. And if you thought last night's debate was fiery, wait till you see how things heated up here.
Beautiful fairy. Hey, Penny, we show Anthony how we make noise.
Oh, what is it?
Oh, it's a butterfly. Oh. It looks like a fairy to me, but I'll believe you.
I love it. It's like, it's a butterfly, get out of your seat. No, it's not happening. But as they say, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And as a side note, guys, watch this kid's reaction at the end.
Do you like my bunny? Is this it alive?
Why did it couldn't do it over there?
Oh, because that's like the inside of its ears.
Yeah,
Even at 5, he's a Dutton voter. Like he was like, oh, look at this. Right.
If you say so.
We are off to break. See you soon.
Coming up, why does the world's richest man want an army of offspring? The bombshell new details about Elon Musk's breeding spree. Plus, she flew to space and she liked it. Or did she? The conspiracy theorists calling it a fake. You're watching The Project. Welcome back. This is The Project.
All right, Oasis fans, get ready. It is that time again. This This week on The Project, are you the ultimate Oasis fan? Before they land in Australia for their stadium tour, we're giving you and a friend the chance to see the Gallagher brothers in London or Manchester. All you have to do is watch The Project, grab the code word and enter at 10play.com.au/win. Very exciting. And tonight's code word is Liam, which is extraordinarily controversial, and Noel may pull out of the tour after that. But the chips fall where they fall.
You're just writing it down. Susan, I don't know if you can actually enter.
No, I just want to make sure I don't forget it.
Yeah. She's memorised all of them. All right. Hush Money, Secret Surrogates, plans to breed an empire of mini-me's. It sounds like the plot of a science fiction movie, but for Elon Musk, it's just life, according to new revelations about his bizarre quest to populate the planet.
They're awesome. Kids are awesome, by the way. You guys should all have kids.
Precious words of advice from Elon Musk. And it's safe to say he's walking the talk.
Not one person has said they regret it. Ever.
The tech billionaire is known to have had at least 14 children with 4 different women. Musk referring to his offspring as a, quote, legion, a reference to ancient military units containing thousands of soldiers. And today, bombshell revelations that there may be more mini Elons in his legion than first thought. Right-wing influencer Ashley St Clair claiming Musk offered her a lump sum of more than $23 million hush money, plus more than $150,000 a month in child support to keep quiet about their baby. And when she refused?
I'm selling it because I need to make up for the 60% cut that Elon made to our son's child support.
The fact that we now know about this secret exchange leads us to wonder how many other women are out there that have accepted this deal. So it really does add more questions surrounding the number of Elon Musk's children in the world.
She also revealed texts showing Elon suggested using surrogates to have babies at a faster rate.
To reach the legion level before the apocalypse, we need to use surrogates is actually word for word what one of the text messages said.
The Wall Street Journal reporting the tycoon uses X to solicit women to father his children.
If we don't make enough people to at least sustain our numbers, perhaps increase a little bit, then civilization is going to crumble.
Elon's baby-making mission reportedly comes from the belief that civilization is under threat because of a declining birth rate. His solution? To seed the earth with more human beings of high intelligence before the apocalypse.
I think this is his way of proving to everyone he can have the hot girls, he can have a lot of girls, and he can have a lot of babies. I think a lot of it is just ego-driven and kind of gross.
So just how big is this legion of Elons? And how big could it grow before the supposed apocalypse arrives?
I think it's the most bizarre thing ever to want to have 100 babies and take them to Mars.
Go forth and multiply.
100 babies. Imagine the dance concerts you're going to have to attend. Oh boy. That's like over 400 hours of your life.
Yeah. But also, Suze, 100 babies to get them to Mars. I've got 2 kids. I struggle to get them to school. Do you know how hard that would be?
Yeah. The more I learn about him, the more unsettled and perplexed I become. But it's time for a break. We'll be back after this.
Well, this day, today, the 17th of April, is a very special day because we wanted to do a segment looking back at things that happened on a random day in history. And what more random a day is there than this day today?
And how, Suze? Let's take a look at what happened on this day, which is, I think, what you should call this segment.
Yes, we are going to. Thank you, David. Cue the music.
Yay!
OK, there's no music, so that's all right. There's no problem at all. Oh, no, there is music. OK, in case of emergency, the fun facts are here, here and here, because on this day in 1935, Qantas took off on the first international flight which flew from Brisbane to Singapore. And if you want to experience what the conditions were like, just fly Jetstar is a joke that I would make if I didn't love Jetstar, which I do. Also, Brisbane to Singapore, how was it not Bali? I don't know.
Cute, but more importantly, on this day in 1970, the Apollo 13 crew, you know, the real ones, not the Tom Hanks ones, landed safely back on Earth, marking an important moment in space exploration that would pave the way for brave astronauts of the future, like Katy Perry. Yeah. Astronaut or Astro 10 out of 10, am I right, guys? Susie.
Thank you. The next one is just as inspirational and more real because on the 17th of April 2011, it was the first day, it was a big day rather, for dragon eggs, TV nudity and red weddings, with Game of Thrones hitting screens for the first time. Yep, 2011. It was a fantasy fantasy involving dragon eggs, and now fantasies today are just involving finding any eggs that are affordable to buy.
So true. Guys, speaking of cultural events, today was a huge moment in history for the fully sick burnout community.
Oh, thank you for recognising my people.
I got your kid now with the iconic Ford Mustang rolling off the lot in 1964, and ever since, a midlife crisis has never looked so good.
Hey, I think you're doing great.
Why would you say that?
Anyway, so now get your proverbial rack and balls out, because on this day in 1875, a British soldier in India invented snooker. And by invented, I mean a British person stole something from India. It also marks the first time someone's mate who didn't pot a ball, so they had to run around the table with their pants down, happened, and it wouldn't be the last.
When their pants down, you really do see their rack and ball. Now, on this day in 1964, the Rolling Stones released their first album creatively called The Rolling Stones. They were the hip new things, and now they're getting new hip things.
Yeah. He's not wrong. Now, finally, the 17th of April is a spicy day for birthdays, with Victoria Posh Beckham in 1974. Also, footpath nap enthusiast Barnaby Joyce in 1967. And, of course, how could we forget JP Morgan in 1837, the OG man in finance, trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes. Was he actually? I have no idea. That was the old. Let's get back to the news.
Yeah. Done.
Yeah, we did our research.
Yeah. Well, coming up, we expect to be treated fairly at our place of work, but for some that's not actually the case. The young women claiming they've been denied basic rights by a popular Aussie jewellery retailer. That's coming up next. You're watching The Project.
What is a woman? Today, Britain's Supreme Court answered that question. It's a seismic moment in the long, bitter and divisive debate over transgender rights, with potentially far-reaching repercussions.
The unanimous decision of this court is that the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex.
In a landmark case, Britain's highest court defining what a woman is. That transgender women are not, in the eyes of UK law, women. That a woman is defined by her sex at birth.
Today, the judges have said what we always believed to be the case, that women are protected by their biological sex, that sex is real.
It ends a decade-long legal battle between the Scottish Government, which argued that transgender women with a gender recognition certificate are entitled to the same sex-based protections as biological women, while a women's rights group argued those protections should apply only to those born female. The court coming down on the side of the campaigners.
It's just about saying that there are differences, and biology is one of those differences, and we just need protections based on that.
That women are biological females, not a man with a certificate. It's fundamental reality.
Among the group's supporters, author J.K. Rowling, who reportedly donated tens of thousands to their campaign, and today celebrated with this.
What the fuck does J.K. Rowling have to do with any of this, dude?
The consequences are potentially far-reaching, with those born male able to now be excluded from women's sports, changing rooms, public bathrooms, hospital wards and refuges.
Women can now feel safe that services and spaces designated for women are for women.
It's getting harder and harder and harder to exist as an openly trans person in this country.
The court insisted the law still provides transgender people with protection against discrimination.
We counsel against reading this judgment as a triumph of one or more groups in our society at the expense of another. It is not.
Even though the judge went out of his way to clarify that it wasn't, it just feels like an attack on trans people.
Aussie women's campaigners hopeful it will inspire change here, including Sall Grover, the founder of female-only networking app Giggle, who lost a controversial court case last year after a judge ruled excluding a transgender woman from her app was discrimination.
Trans people are very scared about what's going on. No judge can tell me who I am.
And Sall Grover, who you saw in that story, is with us now. So what's your response to this ruling?
Obviously elated and also incredibly hopeful, I think, because what I'm hoping is that a lot of people are now able to realize what so many people have been fighting for so long. This is not about hate or phobia or anything. This has simply been about one group of people wanting to establish truth and reality, and that another group of people can't come along and take that away.
Well, Sal, a lot of people don't share your feelings, far from it. They're feeling devastated. Can you understand why?
Not in a way that correlates with reality, to be honest. I understand that a lot of people have been misled, for lack of a better term, of what's been going on. But I think everybody actually has to understand that sex-based rights is how everyone is protected, because whether you like it or not, we all have a biological sex, even if you're trying to reject it. It is how everybody gets their rights. So, for example, if you have like a non-binary identity, gender identity in law doesn't help you. You are going to rely on your sex-based rights when that's what's at play. So I would say to anyone who is feeling devastated about this that, like, if we can actually start having conversations that are fact-based, that are rational, and that are mature, that we could all actually come together and to some understanding about what actually needs to happen here and find a way to accommodate everybody. Because at the end of the day, if somebody wanted to go in there and try and find a way to have trans rights that don't take away women's rights, don't take away LGBT rights, don't take away freedom of speech or belief or association, all power to you. I'll support you all the way through. But no one's ever even attempted that.
Sal, if a ruling like this were to happen here, though, what would that look like? And then in that case, where would be left for trans women to go? What space is safe for them?
What we want is to be able to have female-only spaces, female-only sport, and for women to be recognised in law. As I said before, if you can find a way to do that while have trans rights simultaneously, all power to you, but that hasn't been attempted. Now, if you want to go and create spaces specifically for trans women, create them. Create women plus trans women spaces. You just have to also be able to have female only, because if you don't, what is happening is it's women who want female only spaces are the ones being oppressed, being marginalised, being pushed out of society.
Sal, it's not lost on me that we don't have very much time with you, and there's so much nuance in conversations like this. There are a lot of people today, including pro-trans activists, that have said that this may be used as justification or vindication to discriminate further against trans people. Does that worry you at all?
At the moment, the group that is being discriminated against are women. The easiest test for this is in the workplace, don't call a man she if he asks you to. See who has the power in that situation. We're in a rights fight. What they're in is a demands fight. So men who claim to be women can actually use male-only spaces. They can also create spaces that are specific for them. No one's stopping them from doing it. So it's not discrimination, or it shouldn't be discrimination, to stop a man, no matter what he claims, from coming into a women-only space. At the moment, when he can, what's happening is that women are not allowed to say no to a man if that man claims to have an identity. Now, that is not sustainable in society. So there has to be safeguarding, there has to be boundaries. I mean, we came out of the Me Too movement, a movement of women being able to have boundaries. Now, as a woman, if you have boundaries, you're a bigot. Sorry, I reject the entire premise.
You keep using the phrase men who claim to be women. Would it be fair to say that your position is that there is not really any such thing as a trans woman? There are women, and then there are men, some of whom claim to be women, and that your worldview and your analysis of the rights claims that get agitated here begin from that premise?
100%. I mean, the only prerequisite to be a trans woman is to be a man, to be male. I can't be a trans woman. There's a reason for that. It's biological sex. I mean, I understand that there's people that do have a condition like gender dysphoria, and I think that they should get help and care and be grounded in reality. There's also a condition called autogynephilia, where it's actually a fetish for a man to consider himself a woman. I mean, do I have to accept that man in my private space? Does my daughter, my 2.5-year-old daughter, have to be around that? No.
Sal, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So I understand this is very fresh and very raw. I would caution people against the temptation to overread this judgment. It's come out of the United Kingdom. It's in a very specific context. And really importantly, the judges here are not deciding a philosophical question about what constitutes a man or a woman. They are deciding a legal question about what the meaning of woman and man, for that matter, and what the meaning of sex is in that UK legislation. And the courts were very clear on that. They said it's not the task of this court to make policy on the interest of this group. It's to ascertain the meaning of the legislation that Parliament has enacted. Parliament could change this all tomorrow. It's a totally different situation. And the question for Australia is, our legislation is different in some quite important ways. So it's far from clear, whether you like this or not, by the way, it's far from clear that what's just happened in the UK would have automatic application here. In fact, I suspect it probably wouldn't, and there'd have to be a political process to make it similar. As for this judgment, there's some interesting elements of it. The court specifically acknowledged the existence of trans people as a vulnerable and harassed minority, and you saw the quote about this not being a victory of one over the other. But it identified that there are certain contradictions and problems in the legislation where if you read sex as including trans people in this legislation, you create a contradiction with the way that operates with that legislation. Now, we don't have that same legislation. And so they're going through a very technical exercise. The end result of it, and I think this is a fascinating element of it, is they say you can, the law already provides that you can exclude trans women from a women-only space, a rape crisis centre, hospital wards that are women-only, etc. But the exclusion has to be proportionate. That's the quote that the court used. I don't know exactly what that will mean in practice. I think a lot of lawyers around the world and in the UK don't know exactly what that will mean in practice. But it's not hard to imagine, for example, that they might say, if you're dealing with a rape crisis centre or you're dealing with, I don't know, to use a controversial example, sport, that's different to if you have a female-only, forgive me, jewellery club or something like that, where the biological elements may not be as predominant. I don't know 100% that's true, that that's the way it would shake out, but it could well be.
Yeah.
And so let's just keep our powder dry. I understand the emotions. Keep our powder dry a bit, and maybe this will shake out in ways that we don't quite anticipate.
My worry is that you will see this kind of rhetoric become dangerous because it gets weaponised, and people who don't have that nuance or haven't read that then take that to be something else.
And that's on us.
Yeah.
We make that decision.
There's more project coming up after this.
Coming up, till cake in the face do we part. The wedding tradition that went a bit too far for one newlywed bride. Plus, Kiwi comedian Chris Parker drops in to explain the best thing about being 30-something. This is The Project.
More of today's top stories now, and it's only taken about 48 hours for the conspiracy theorists to declare Katy Perry's space flight was faked. One theory centres around Jeff Bezos wrenching open the capsule door supposedly for the first time. Conspiracists say earlier footage showed the door being opened from the inside and then hastily shut and they say that that's definitive proof. There's also the suggestion the whole mission was filmed in a studio with the all-female crew floating in tanks of water. Wow, that's elaborate lengths to go to.
If you're going to have a conspiracy theory, don't make it the same as the last one. That's all I would say. Viral footage of a groom smashing his new wife's head into their wedding cake has really got people fired up. The video's clocked up more than 20 million views with furious social media users slamming the, quote, humiliating act. It left the bride stunned, covered in purple icing. The groom then wanted a high five, or perhaps it's a high 10, I guess. He might get more than he bargained for because of anecdotal evidence that cake in the face often leads to divorce. Apparently that's a category.
He may have thought he won the battle, but he lost the war, I'd assume, because I don't think they physically consummated their marriage that night. I think he lost there, mate.
Thank you, David, for the update.
Yeah.
Thank you. There was a newsreader tone. Did you like it?
It was very
It's
good.
worth noting that every single person in our audience just went like this. Like when it was happening, like couldn't quite believe, because what on earth?
I know, disgusting.
But
Purple
hey,
cake.
in the divorce, he'll get the whole cake.
The whole, yeah.
Get the whole cake.
All right. When we rock up to work, most of us expect to be paid fairly, be given proper lunch and toilet breaks, and generally just feel safe. But hundreds of young women claim they've been denied these basic rights by a popular Aussie jewellery retailer.
I would quite frequently come home in tears because I was getting verbal abuse from customers, but I was also dealing with this toxic workplace.
I was absolutely exhausted, frustrated, just beaten down. Lovisa just treats their staff horrifically.
More than 600 former and current Lovisa staff have come forward as part of a class action against the youth accessories chain. The The claim alleges multiple breaches of employment laws.
Underpayments, requiring their employees to turn up early to work or stay after rostered hours and not paying them for that time, and generally hostile conditions in circumstances where they weren't allowed to take breaks.
Julie Tester was 23 when she started working for Lovisa, and she says rose quickly through the ranks to become store manager.
I love jewellery, I love fashion, I love all those sorts of things. So being able to dress up and go to work, I really did enjoy that part of it.
But it wasn't long before she started noticing that things didn't sit right with her.
If you had a full shift, you knew you would get a lunch break. That's about it. Getting a 10-minute break would be considered a privilege. They would just tell us that if you needed to go to the toilet, you can just shut the store. And of course, I don't know if you've ever walked into a Lovisa store, but there's never not anyone in there. And that was predominantly the issue, was that you would just have to hold on. And unfortunately, I do know of a couple girls that just couldn't hold. Yeah.
Moo was 18 and straight out of high school when they took on a part-time role.
My jobs mainly included replenishing stock, talking to customers, putting transactions through. I was getting around $15 and I think 44 cents an hour. And I didn't actually receive sick leave when I was ill.
Moo struggles to stand up for extended periods because of joint pain.
Generally, my shifts ranged anywhere between 3 to sometimes 7 hours. We didn't have a seating area or a break room, really. There would be times where I would just crouch on the floor behind the counter because there was nowhere else for me to sit.
The jewellery chain allegedly asked staff to buy products using their own money.
We were pushed to always wear 5 sources of jewellery. So we would have to wear hair, ear, neck, wrist, and rings.
There was a lot of gossip and a lot of it felt like bullying to me. For example, had a manager suggest that I go and buy a new outfit because what I was wearing wasn't in season or in style.
We are dealing with a very young, vulnerable workforce, and oftentimes these employees' first jobs ever. They weren't aware of their rights at the time. They weren't confident enough to ask questions. And so from that perspective, it is disturbing.
Especially once it came to Christmas contracts, where they were pressuring very heavily for everybody to sign away our rights for our overtime. And that was something that I chose not to sign.
But more concerning to Julie was what she claims was a blatant disregard for staff safety.
My store was in quite a high theft area. I constantly had 2 different groups of teenagers that would come in and not just steal, but they'd swear at me and then they'd follow me. So when I would go out to take stuff to the bins, sometimes, I would take my Stanley knife with me, to just in case. A lot of us have asked for security cameras for help and they've just constantly been denied.
Julie says a major incident was the final straw.
On a Saturday, I had one other girl working with me and I had these 2 girls come in. One of them had been previously banned, so I told her to get out. She refused, so I walked out of the store to call over security. By then, she was standing over the top of one of my other girls, screaming at her, swearing at her. So I said to her, you don't speak to my staff like that. You need to get out. And she threw me into the gondola, which is the thing that has all the earrings and whatnot, and smashed all across my back. She ripped out my earrings. She ripped my necklace. She scratched my face. She broke 4 nails on me. By then, security had grabbed onto the girl that had assaulted me and had dragged her out.
A friend from a nearby store swung into action.
She shut up the store for me. She called the police for me, and I had 2 mums help calm me down.
And after putting the store back together, Julie clocked off for good.
It's been about 5 years now, and I keep telling myself I should get over it, but it's just, I think the lack of care and support is what's made it so hard.
The project also spoke with a former employee who requested time off after her doctor
confirmed I was miscarrying. The manager told me that I was not able to take time off, and if I did not work at least 5 hours per day that week, they would question my employment with the company. I ended up curled up in pain and crying on the floor of the storeroom. I had to stay another 3 hours.
Lovisa has 180 stores throughout Australia. The class action is seeking compensation for unpaid work for eligible group members employed between January 2019 and this year.
We are hopeful to reach a resolution with Lovisa sooner rather than later so that the group members can move on with their lives.
In a statement, Lovisa says it, quote, intends to defend the class action and takes its obligations under the Fair Work Act and the Lovisa Enterprise Agreements very seriously.
I hope that Lovisa has the decency or the incentive at least to give back to the people they've taken from.
I want all the girls that have had all this bad stuff happen to feel vindicated and that what happened to them wasn't okay. I don't want to have another young girl ever have to go through this.
We should point out we did approach Lovisa for comment. They did not, however, respond.
Okay, we've got to take a break. We'll be right back.
You know it is now, guys. Today, the good people at 10 News interviewed some young e-bike riders about speed restrictions, and it's pretty clear they were chatting with some of the coolest kids in town.
Going for like a massive ride.
Not trying to piss anybody off, just going for a chill ride.
Wheelies, have some fun.
Do you think you'll be sticking to all the road rules when you're out there?
Yeah, I'll be trying my best.
It was pretty cool. Now, they're the kind of tough units that I reckon even if cops drove by, they wouldn't even blink.
Come in the field. Don't go anywhere, don't go anywhere. Just stay, bro, it's fine.
Oh,
Interview us.
I'm staying. Hello,
G'day,
so
sir.
how are you?
They didn't blink, but they did have to change their underwear. So that is a nice little fun fact.
All right, our next guest thinks that being 30-something is the way to go.
I think I just love being mid-30s so much because I really hated my 20s. Honestly, I think it's the worst age you could ever be in your 20s. You know, sometimes, like, you'll meet someone and you're like, oh, what's wrong with them? And then they're like, I'm 24. And you're like, that's it.
Please welcome Chris Parker.
Hi, everyone. Oh, my gosh. And I stand by it. Yeah. I stand by it.
Why? What's so wrong with being 24?
Oh, it's just a hard age, you know. You have to really put yourself out there, and you don't know who you are, and like, you know, you got to run around and like, you know, knock over road cones and like jump and touch signs and all that energy. And I just was never cut out for that because I'm a bit of a scaredy cat, and you got to put yourself out there and like hook up with all the wrong people every night, which actually I did a bit of. I was hooking up with a lot of women in my 20s, which was wrong for me actually. Yeah. So
What's the best age to be then?
Mid-30s. I think mid-30s is the best age ever. Oh yeah, it's so fun. And I think it's the age I make the most sense at as well. I think it's the age I've always supposed to have been because like Mum would always be like, go outside and like play with all the kids. And I'd be like, why? Like when I could stay inside and, you know, listen to the mums talk about who they think should have a divorce.
Yeah.
Like I've just always wanted like a charcuterie platter. Like ever since ever since I was a young boy, it's always been that, and I love sitting back and throwing back a wine and a gossip in the sun. Yeah, it's the best age, and you know what you're doing with your hair. You know, you're like, okay, bangs, not for me. You do bangs when you're 20s, and then you figure it out, and you've got like a bit of money to do it.
Should have started with the hair. I would have got your point if you'd started there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You don't like a charcuterie platter?
I don't love charcuterie.
Exactly, come on.
Yeah, depends
so you're
what's on it.
mid-30s.
No, well,
Thank you, that's very kind.
He's mid-40s, so it just ends up like that. Like that is what we're doing here. Mate, being a fellow comedian,
Yes.
I know what it's like to promote a show, and it's always so hard online because you want to be funny, but you don't want to be begging people. And I feel like...
There's always a desperation in the eyes where you're like, this tickets are selling really fast, and obviously not. You can sort of see the twitch beginning to happen.
But mate, you found a loophole. I love this. Can we just look at this clip now?
Hello, it's me, your manager, voice noting you under duress because we both know that you've been ignoring me even though I've been asking you to do the video for 25 for 25. And I know you're ignoring me because you want me to send you a voice note, which I have to do now, don't I? Book tickets to Chris Parker, so I have to stop doing these voice notes, please, everyone. Thank you.
She's going to be so mad. And they just played on TV. That's so good. Yeah, look, my relationship with my manager is turning toxic, but she keeps sending me these voice memos to be like, you need to promote the show. And I was like, well, I'm just going to use these voice memos and dance to them. And it's honestly worked a treat.
Perfection. We just got a little sample of your dance moves. I went to your show a couple of weeks ago. It doesn't start with jokes. It starts with some pretty amazing moves, but like for a substantial amount of time. When did this start?
I started last year because you'd always have to stand backstage before the show, and it's only a couple of metres to the right. But how I would feel would be like drastically different because you'd be so nervous behind the curtain. And I was like, and the audience knows I'm behind the curtain. So I was like, what if I just wait on stage while the audience come in and just sort of vibe to the pre-show music, which has now resulted in me like really like turning it out before the show, which works in Melbourne because it's, you know, only a certain amount of people. It's maybe 10 to 15 minutes of dancing. I do the show in New Zealand to, like, not to brag, but quite a few more people. You know, maybe over 1,000. And it takes a lot longer for them to come into the theatre. And I have found myself dancing for about 45 minutes before the show. I am absolutely wrecked. I'm so tired. And then I had to do another hour show.
Well, no shade, but do you wish you were 24 when you're puffed out trying to do the show?
You're right, Susie, I do. I take it all back. I want to be 24 again. Put me back in the closet.
You can be dancing with women in traffic cones. It'd be amazing.
In the show that you kind of talk about embracing cringe. Why are you lobbying for that? And I say that as someone whose middle name may be Cringe.
Oh, wow. Beautiful name there. I just have an accent on the E or something. Yeah, cringe. I think, honestly, it's a bit dramatic, but I do think cringe is the tool of the oppressor. Like, I get into it into the show, but I think, you know, it's the way our enemies want to get us because we give up on ourselves. So you just, like, you can't help what you fall in love with, you know? And I think in a time like this, it's just you've really got to back your loves and back your passions. And I put myself out there. One of my biggest passions in this life is fingerless gloves. I think they look so cool. I think they look so cool. And everyone mocks you because they're like, oh, why are your fingertips hot? But your hands are cold, whatever. I think you look bad. You know, you look like, you know, robber. You know, who's willing to risk it all by having their fingertips exposed. Like, it's cool.
Kind of criminal chic is what you're
I can
after.
feel people switching off as I talk about this.
That's a good point, so we'll wrap it up. Chris's show, Stop Being So Dramatic, has a couple of nights left in Melbourne before it heads right around the country. Ticket details are on our website. Would you please thank Chris Parker?